This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about draft FPL. I'm Dom Crofts. I hope you are well. And yes, Game Week 12 is the latest game week that is done and dusted. It's a distant speck in the distance, and coming up fast is Game Week 13. We're going to have a look at all the fixtures that can define your game week in just a moment. We've got all those waiver picks for you as well. Delicious waiver picks for you this week, and some damn fine trade options to chat about as well. But before we get going, it's a usual plea from me to you to please, if you're watching this on YouTube, like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And if you're more an audio kind of guy or gal, then why not make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast on whatever podcast platform of choice you listen to us on. And please also give us a 5-star rating and a few kind words as well. Before we get going with Game Week 13, we're going to take a little whistle-stop look back at everything that happened in Game Week 12 with a few headlines and where else to start but the North London derby, where Eberechi Eze was the hero. A hat-trick for him against the club he very nearly joined in the summer against Tottenham Hotspur. A 20-point FPL return. It's his first ever hat-trick in his club career. Racked up 0.96 XGI in that one. He's averaging 5.5 points per game. And only Erling Haaland, Mo Salah and Brian Mbeumo have been involved in more top-flight goals than Eberechi Eze in 2025. He's been involved in 18, the same as Antoine Semenyo. He's got 10 goals and 8 assists. Now, some of you may remember that last week I suggested he was a good option to trade out of your side. First of all, sorry about that if you did it last week. However, I am standing by what I said last week. He is still a rotation risk. We've heard today, as we record this on Tuesday, that Martin Odegaard may well be involved in Arsenal's Champions League game against Bayern Munich. He's not going to start that one. It's going to be a few weeks before he gets back into that team fully fit. But when he does, he is the Arsenal captain. And that means that Eberechi Eze may not start in that number 10 position. Can he play on the left-hand side? Sure he can. It's arguably his more natural position. But will he when Leandro Trossard is playing as well as he has been doing? I'm not so sure. I think he will be rotated in and out of this team. And the trick of draft is to sell the players that you have when they are hot, if you think they cannot maintain that form. Now, I'm not saying you should sell Eberechi Eze this week. I'm just saying that at some point he is going to be rotated out of that Arsenal team, and there will be a lot of rotation in those front positions. That's all I'm saying. So if you've got Eberechi Eze, think about what you're going to do with him, and congratulations for what he did this week. What a performance. Bad luck, Spurs. Meanwhile, bad luck, Liverpool at Anfield, who were beaten 3-0 by Nottingham Forest. A 17-point return for Murillo. He racked up 19 defensive contributions in that one. He's hit DEFCON twice in his last 3 games. And what's interesting about Nottingham Forest is their massive improvement at the back. We've spoken about it before, but it is really, really stark now. The combined expected goals conceded for Forest since Sean Dyche took over 4 games ago is 3.79. So in 4 games, they should have conceded 3.79 goals, an average of 0.94 goals per match. Before Sean Dyche took over, in 8 games, their XGC was 17.01. Wow. So that is an average of conceding 2.12 goals per match. So they have not just improved, they have improved absolutely spectacularly. And after all of us got rid of all our Nottingham Forest assets under the Ange era, they are very much back on the menu now. And we will be talking about Murillo, Milenkovic, and all the rest a little bit later. Also in Game Week 12, Daniel Munoz was a hero for Crystal Palace as they won at Molineux against Wolverhampton Wanderers, kicking off the Rob Edwards era in a slightly underwhelming fashion. Munoz has now got 5 returns in his last 6 games. Palace have got 6 clean sheets for the season, and he is averaging 6.2 points per game. And with Gabriel now out of the game with injury for Arsenal, there is a very strong argument to suggest that if you own Daniel Munoz right now, you own the best defender in FPL draft. We also need to shout out Harvey Barnes, who put up a 15-point return for Newcastle United against Manchester City in the late kickoff on Saturday night. He now has 2 hauls in as many weeks. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but we did suggest this would happen because Harvey Barnes scores in batches. We said last season when he returned in one game, more often than not, he would return in the next and maybe even the next one after that. And he did just that against Manchester City. And in Newcastle's next 4 games, he has an opportunity to return again. They have Everton in game week 13 before a game against Spurs at St. James's Park, a game against Burnley at St. James's Park, and then the derby against Sunderland. I'm sure he would love to be involved in that one. And as we record this, Newcastle are in action in the Champions League, and Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon are both starting along with Jacob Murphy. Walter Marder is on the bench for that one. Let's take a look at the fixtures then for game week 13, and it all kicks off at 3 o'clock on Saturday, the 29th of November, with a game between Brentford and Burnley at the G-Tech. At the same time, Manchester City are in action against Leeds United at the Etihad, and Sunderland take on Bournemouth at the Stadium of Light. The early evening kickoff on Saturday sees Everton do battle with Newcastle United before a late kickoff at 8 o'clock, a London derby between Spurs and Fulham. On Sunday, the 30th of November, 2025, there's all sorts of games to look forward to. Starting at midday with a game at Selhurst Park between Crystal Palace and Manchester United. Aston Villa and Wolves do battle in a Midlands derby at 2:05, not 2, oh no, 2:05. And at the same time, Nottingham Forest take on Brighton and Hove Albion, and West Ham take on Liverpool. And then wrapping up the weekend at 4:30, a big game between the top 2. It's Chelsea, it's Arsenal, and it's live wherever you watch your football. Let's start with that 3 o'clock game between Brentford and Burnley then. First up, a few facts for you between these two sides. There have been 4 Premier League meetings, and the home team has won every single time. Brentford have not conceded a goal to Burnley in the Premier League, winning 3-0 in the 2023-24 season and 2-0 in the 2021-22 season. That is at the G-Tech. They have, of course, lost on both trips to Turf Moor. So it bodes well for Brentford to do well in this one and potentially make it 3 clean sheets in a row at home to Burnley. As for their assets, Dango Utara is playing regularly and playing well. A 5-point return against Brighton at the weekend. He has now started the last 5 games in which he's got 3 attacking returns. He is Brentford's second highest point scorer in all of FPL. And more importantly than any of that, he's coming up against a Burnley side that have the worst expected goals conceded record in the entire league. An XGC of 27.82, not good, and they've already conceded 24. So they are actually overperforming, but still not good. Meanwhile, if you think Brentford will make it 3 clean sheets in a row at home to Burnley, Sepp van den Berg is worth thinking about. He's Brentford's 4th highest point scorer right now. He's got 3 defensive contribution returns in the last 4 game weeks, and it could have been more because in the last 5 game weeks, his lowest defensive contribution return was 9 points, 1 away from hitting the threshold. Brentford are also ranked 5th for XGC in the league, so they are a pretty sturdy defensive unit, which may come as a surprise to some of you. It did come as a surprise to me. As for Burnley, well, slim pickings really, if I'm totally honest, but Florentino continues to do the business. He's hit DEFCON 5 times in 9 game weeks since getting into the Burnley starting 11. 3 of those defensive contribution returns have come in away games. So if you're going to back a Burnley player, you could do worse than back Florentino. It's Manchester City versus Leeds at the Etihad. City have won the last 4 meetings between these two sides by an aggregate scoreline of, get this, 16 goals to 2. So in the last 4 meetings, they have scored 16 goals. Part of that is because in the 2021-22 season, they won 7-0 with the likes of Phil Foden, John Stones and Nathan Ake all amongst the goals. And talking about goals, Mr. Erling Haaland has 2 goals in his last 2 games against Leeds, who of course are the team his father, Alf Inge Haaland, used to play for. As for options in this one, slim pickings for Manchester City because most of their assets will be taken. But in a few leagues, Mateus Nunes could well be free. He's currently the 4th highest point scorer for Manchester City this season with 46 points. He started the last 7 games now, got 4 returns in that time, 2 of which were hauls. And City's next 4 are looking good. Leeds at home this weekend, Fulham away at Craven Cottage, then a game at home to Sunderland before a trip to Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace. News as well on Rodri, their midfielder, who could offer you a route into this Manchester City side. He is nearly back from injury. The latest quotes from Pep Guardiola: not long for Rodri, not sure, but not long. In the process and timing on when he will be back, we will wait a little more to make sure he is fine. So he may not play this one, but he is going to be getting in that team sooner rather than later. And of course, if he comes back even 3/4 of the player we know he can be, he would be a very astute bit of business for you in the long term. As for Leeds United, just the same as Burnley, really, a team slipping down that table at a dramatic rate. However, Lucas Nemecha has scored 2 goals in his last 2 games. And if you are drastically short of options up front, he could offer you a third striker option if you really need it. At the Stadium of Light, it's Sunderland against Bournemouth. Only one of the last 7 meetings between these two sides has been won by the home team. So that bodes well for Bournemouth, who have been on a bit of a rocky patch of late. 4-0 defeat to Aston Villa and then failing to beat West Ham at the weekend. Bournemouth won the last matchup between these two at the Stadium of Light. That was 1-0 back in 2017 when Joshua King got the only goal of the game. Sunderland options for you: Nordi Mukiele, their defender, continues to impress. 7 returns in 11 matches so far for him this season. 6 defensive contribution returns in that time as well. We must remember that Sunderland, even though they lost at the weekend to Fulham, are still unbeaten at home, and they have played some big teams already, including the league leaders Arsenal, of course. And Bournemouth, well, they failed to win 5 of their 6 away games this season. The only team they did manage to beat was Tottenham Hotspur. And Brian Brobby is another option for you up front for Sunderland. He got 26 minutes against Fulham, got a similar amount against Arsenal before the international break. And Reggie Labrie had this to say about him in his pre-match press conference before that defeat to Fulham: he's getting better. He can feel it. He feels confident, quick, sharp, and he's close to his best level now. It's positive for the squad, the competition, and the depth. Now, Brobby cost a decent chunk of money. He's on £60,000 a week. He signed a 5-year contract, almost didn't join Sunderland at all until he saw the calibre of player they were bringing in. I think he would not have agreed to join this club without certain guarantees. And I think it is only a short matter of time now before Brobby becomes the starting striker for Sunderland. As for Bournemouth, Marcus Tavernier continues to impress in the heart of their midfield. He's a mainstay in this Bournemouth side under Andoni Iraola. 3 attacking returns in his last 5 matches. Bournemouth are the 8th highest XG side of all clubs in the Premier League with 18.96 XG. They're ranking 8th in that metric, and they've racked up 4.96 XG in their last 3 away games, scoring 4 goals in the process. So even though their form hasn't been great of late, they are still creating chances, and Tavernier could well be the man to take them. It's Everton against Newcastle at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. Everton are actually unbeaten in their last 4 matches with Newcastle United. Charlie Alcaraz got the only goal of the game at St James's Park towards the back end of last season. The final game between these two at Goodison Park, ended 0-0. Beto was among the scorers in a 3-0 win for Everton back in the 2023-24 season. As for their options, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall impressed against Manchester United on Monday night, got a goal, his second attacking return in as many matches. He's also doing pretty well defensively, racked up 13 defensive contributions against United. It's the second successive game he has hit the threshold in that metric. As for Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes was absolutely outstanding against Manchester City, and he's been outstanding all season long, quietly going under the radar. 5 attacking returns in his last 6 matches, across which time he's racked up 44 FPL points. He's the 8th highest scoring midfielder in the entire game. And if he continues at this rate, and if we extrapolate his statistics after the first 12 game weeks, he is on course to hit 22 attacking returns for the season. And you would absolutely take that if you could get him in your draft side, and he delivers on that promise. Other options for Newcastle United: Jacob Murphy, I thought, was fantastic against Manchester City. Had a couple of fantastic balls into the penalty box that were missed by Walter. Racked up 0.42 XGI against Pep Guardiola's side. He's got 2 goals in his last 4 matches. He is their starting right winger now, no doubt about that. Anthony Elanga is having to make do with a place on the bench for the foreseeable, I suspect. And Newcastle's next four are decent. Everton away at the weekend, then a home game against struggling Spurs, a home game against Burnley, and then the derby against Sunderland. Question marks over the left-hand side where Harvey Barnes and Anthony Gordon are expected to do battle in the Champions League tonight. Both have started, and I can't see Harvey Barnes being dropped anytime soon. I think Gordon may well have to make do with a place on the bench at the weekend at Everton, his former side, of course. Also worth looking at Newcastle defenders because they've had some returning heroes in their side at the weekend against Manchester City. Tino Livramento and Lewis Hall, both returning to their starting 11, and what an impact they made. They look so much better with Livramento and Hall in the side. Both of them have dreams of representing England at the World Cup, and Dan Burn does also have that dream. So there is competition for places across those fullback spots, but I can't see Tino Livramento giving his spot up to Trippier, and Lewis Hall, I think, will eventually win the battle with Burn. It is a gamble because Eddie Howe loves Dan Burn, but right now, I think Lewis Hall has shown what a talent he is. Malik Thor is another option for you at the back for Newcastle, just given that he is probably the most solid starting centre-back, and he is extremely consistent for the tune. It's Spurs against Fulham in North London. Spurs haven't lost at home to Fulham since 2013. Last season, the game ended 1 apiece. Brennan Johnson and Tom Kearney getting the goals. Kearney was sent off as well. Rodrigo Muniz has got 3 goals in his last 3 games against Tottenham. They are the opponent he has scored the most goals against. He will not be adding to his tally at the weekend as he is out until the new year with injury. As for Spurs, well, they were dreadful against Arsenal, but one man could hold his head sort of semi-high, I suppose, and that is João Paulinho, who at least got stuck in. He picked up 14 defensive contributions against Arsenal. He's hit 5 DEFCON returns in a row now. And not only that, he's also showing he's got a bit about him in the final third. 2 goals and 2 assists this season from an XGI of just 1. Unlikely to be able to continue that. That seems pretty unsustainable, but certainly his defensive contribution monster statistics suggest that if you pick him up this weekend, you can be sure of 4 points. Similarly, Joachim Andersen has been excellent for Fulham in that regard. 8 defensive contribution returns for him in just 10.5 games this season. He's also picked up 1.5 XGI for the season, despite not yet registering an attacking return. Fulham's next 3, Spurs away at the weekend, Man City at home, and Palace at home. Tricky games, but games where you would expect Andersen to hit that defensive contribution threshold. And then in game week 16 to 18, the fixtures turn pretty nicely for Marco Silva's side. Burnley away, Nottingham Forest at home, and West Ham United away. So he could be a mix of defensive contribution points and maybe even the odd clean sheet in those latter game weeks. Another option for you from Fulham, Harry Wilson, who racked up 0.42 XGI at the weekend against Sunderland. He's played 7 games where he's had more than 60 minutes of game time, and he has picked up 3 attacking returns so far this season, 1 goal and 2 assists in what is the minutes equivalent of just 8.2 games. So pretty much 1 every 2 games. And he is the sort of player who you cannot give space to on the edge of the box because he knows where the back of the net is, and he is very composed from the edge of the box. A bit like Eberici Eze, and he's playing Spurs. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. It's Crystal Palace against Manchester United at Selhurst Park. Palace are unbeaten in their last 4 games against Manchester United, who were woeful against Everton on Monday. Of those last 4 games, Palace have won 3 of them, and they have not conceded a goal in any of those 4 fixtures. Jean-Philippe Mateta scored both goals in a 2-0 win at Old Trafford last season, and he also scored in a 4-0 win at Selhurst Park back in the 2023-2024 season. So it doesn't bode well for United and Ruben Amorim. Options for you from Crystal Palace. He's here again, and he's beautiful. It's Jeremy Pino. Finally registered that attacking return at the weekend against Wolves. A goal from an XGI of 0.64. His XGI for the season is now up to 3.1 in the equivalent of 6.7 games worth of minutes. So again, like Harry Wilson, a return every 2 games. Palace ranked 4th for XG this season of all teams in the Premier League with 22.47. And they continue to have pretty winnable fixtures. Won't be scared of United at the weekend. Then they go to Burnley. Then they go to Fulham. And they might even fancy their chances with a home game against Manchester City. As for Manchester United, Casemiro failed to return against Everton despite being up against 10 men for the vast majority of that game. However, He has picked up 4 defensive contribution returns in his last 5 matches, and I expect him to do the same against a team like Crystal Palace. United's next 4: Palace in game week 13 before a home game against West Ham, a trip to Wolves, and a home game against Bournemouth. So certainly games where you would expect Casemiro to have an impact. It's Aston Villa against Wolves at Villa Park. Aston Villa were 3-1 winners in this fixture last season with Ollie Watkins and Ezri Konsa among the scorers. Konsa was also on target in a 2-0 win the season before. However, Wolves did win the last fixture played between these sides. That was at Molineux in February when they won 2-0. Jean-Rickner Bellegarde and Cunha got the goals. Options for you in this one. First up, Donyell Malen, who has 2 attacking returns in his last 2 games in the equivalent of just 54 minutes. He's got those 2 attacking returns as well. And it shouldn't go unnoticed that Ollie Watkins was withdrawn after 67 minutes at the weekend with a score at 1-1. And there's every chance, in my opinion, that Malen is going to either usurp Watkins in that starting 11 or help support him in those forward positions. He is an impact maker, and he could be a key target for you this week, because if he gets in the team, he's got a home game against Wolves, and he could well stay there. Wolves, by the way, in their last 4 matches have given up 9.1 XGC, so more than 2 goals a game in terms of expected goals conceded they're giving up. So Malen could feast, as of course could Ollie Watkins, although the signs haven't been good for a while now. Also worth thinking about Villa defenders this week. They've got 2 consecutive clean sheets on their home patch of Villa Park. And Wolves, as well as being dreadful defensively, are dreadful going forward. They rank 20th for XG, bottom of the league in more ways than one. Just 10.55 expected goals for the campaign. So any of Digne, Konsa, Pau Torres, or Matty Cash, if they're on the waivers, snap them up. As for Wolves, again, it's hard to give you any recommendations from a team struggling like they are. But Rob Edwards gave Tolu his first start since game week 5 against Crystal Palace. And he spoke pretty positively of him after the game. He said, Tolu's done really well this week for us. And I thought he worked extremely hard today. If we can get them right at it, talking about him and his strike partner, you wouldn't want to play against those 2. So it sounds like Tolu is going to be a first team starter going forward. It's just how much you invest your faith in a Wolves player, full stop. It's Nottingham Forest against Brighton at the City Ground. Forest won this fixture 7-0 last season. That was a funny day. Chris Wood scored a hat-trick in that one. It was Brighton's only defeat to Forest in their last 5 meetings. The Seagulls have won 2 of those 5 games. And Brighton's last win at the City Ground came in the 2023-2024 season when João Pedro scored twice in a 3-2 win. Options for you here. Well, we're going Forest defenders. If you can't get a Villa defender, aim for a Forest defender. They got their first clean sheet since April in that win over Liverpool at Anfield. Obviously, all of us jumped off their defensive assets under Ange Postecoglou, but 3 of their last 4 games, they've given up less than 1 XG to the opposition. So the signs are good that they can keep a clean sheet. And I've not really got that much faith in Brighton on the road. I would expect Forest to win this one, and they could easily win it to 0. Amari Hutchinson deserves a shout out as well. He's got 3 assists in his last 2 games in just 60 minutes of action. And of course, he has not been registered for their Europa League campaign. So he will be rested and ready for this one. Could mean that Callum Hudson-Odoi's place in the Forest team is at risk. And Forest's next 4 all look pretty winnable. Brighton at home at the weekend, Wolves away, Everton away is a bit trickier, and then a home game against Tottenham Hotspur. The confidence is high under Sean Dyche. As for Brighton, as I said, I don't fancy them to go there and win. Ferdi Kadioglu has kept 2 clean sheets in his last 3 games as part of that Brighton backline. He started the last 9 matches as well. Got 0.22 XGI against Brentford, 1.2 XGI for the season. If you're going to go there, go there. But I think it's more of a long-term pick than one for this weekend. West Ham take on Liverpool in East London. Liverpool are unbeaten in their last 9 matches between these 2 sides. They've won 8 of those 9 matches, and they won 5-0 in this fixture last season with Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah both on target. How Arne Slot would love a repeat of that at the weekend. Salah and Gakpo also scored in a 5-1 Carabao Cup win at Anfield last September. So even though they have no confidence, they have no reason not to go into this one with quite a lot of confidence. As for your West Ham assets, Alphonse Areola was impressive against Bournemouth, made 10 saves in that 2-2 draw, picked up a 9-point return. He's made 34 saves this season in just 8 games. So he's averaging 4.25 saves per match. And he's going to have an opportunity to make a few more saves in West Ham's next 4 games. Liverpool at home, Man United away, Brighton away, and Aston Villa at home. Probably not too many clean sheets in there, but save points are plenty potentially for Alphonse Areola. West Ham defenders as well seem to be revelling under Nuno Espirito Santo. Certainly from a DEFCON perspective, the entire back five against Bournemouth hit the defensive contribution threshold. Igor getting 12, Kilman 11, Wan-Bissaka 11, and Jurf and Tadibo 10. So if you fancy a little 4-point hit for your side, then any of those could well return against Liverpool this weekend. You would certainly expect them to have to do some defensive work against the champions, even in the state that they're currently in. As for Liverpool, slim pickings on the waivers, I'm sure, but Curtis Jones has got 5 attacking returns in 11 games against West Ham, 2 goals and 3 assists. And with the fullback problems that Liverpool have, I would expect Jones to start again in this one. His minutes likely to increase with Szoboszlai having to do the legwork at the back. And I would fancy Curtis Jones to start this one. And who knows, maybe he'll get a return as well. Also, we can't move on before we touch on Mo Salah, whose form really has fallen off a cliff this season. If you drafted him on draft night, you have every reason to be a little annoyed with yourself. But who could have foreseen what has happened to Liverpool this season? If you do own him, I can't believe I'm saying this, but with AFCON on the horizon as well, now might be the time to try to orchestrate a trade for him. Most draft leagues will have Liverpool fans in them. And if you have a Liverpool fan in your draft league, he may well, or she may well, be open to a Salah trade. So if you've got him and you can get good value for him, despite his woeful form and despite his side's woeful form and despite the fact he's off to AFCON, then now might well be the time to pull the trigger. I'm sure that's something you would never have contemplated at the start of the season, but it's something I think you have to contemplate right now. And then the weekend wraps up at Stamford Bridge, where Chelsea take on Arsenal. Cole Palmer has returned to training for Chelsea. He's not been named in the squad against Barcelona for their Champions League game, so I would not expect him to start this one. May well find himself on the bench at best. Arsenal haven't actually lost to Chelsea in their last 7 meetings. They've won 5 of those games. Last season's game at Stamford Bridge ended in a draw, 1-1, with Pedro Neto and Gabriel Martinelli both on target. And Declan Rice and Leo Trossard both scored in a 2-2 draw the season before at Stamford Bridge. Trossard has been in outrageous form for Arsenal, so well done if you've managed to pick him up on the waivers. He has served you well, and Declan Rice is arguably their most important player right now. As for Chelsea options, Alejandro Garnacho was rested against Burnley, but has been given a starting berth against FC Barcelona. He has 3 attacking returns in 3 matches. I'm pretty sure he is their first choice starting winger now. And their next 4, Arsenal at home, Leeds away, Bournemouth away, and Everton at home. Arsenal don't give up many chances, but Leeds, Bournemouth, and Everton certainly do. So you can see Garnacho getting some returns in that one. As for Arsenal, Noni Madueke is worth a shout as a long-term punt. He can, of course, cover 2 of the front 3 positions, back up to Saka potentially. Could be a first-team starter on the left-hand side, although the competition there is fierce with potentially Eze as well as Trossard and Martinelli. He did get off the bench ahead of Martinelli against Spurs. Whether or not he's slightly ahead in terms of match fitness, I'm not sure. It could be that he's ahead of him in the pecking order. Either way, I think he will get a lot of minutes this season. So if you fancy him as a 5th option in your midfield, long-term, Madueke could be worth a punt. Certainly not for this one, though. Although, who knows? He'll be hungry to return to Stamford Bridge and make an impact. So your Game Week 13 top picks. In goal, Alphonse Areola. West Ham are showing signs of defensive improvement. Areola is averaging 4 saves per match, at least. And Liverpool are in absolute disarray. 5-0 winners at the London Stadium last season. Will West Ham avenge that this year? Time will tell. But Alphonse Areola is likely to be a busy boy, so you may well get some save points, even if you don't get clean sheet points. You might get clean sheet points at the City ground as Nottingham Forest take on Brighton, and Murillo is the pick of them. Forest defensive numbers have improved dramatically. He got 19 defensive contributions, of course, at Anfield at the weekend, 2 defensive contribution returns in the last 3 games. If Murillo's not around, maybe Milenkovic is, maybe Nico Williams is. All of them would be good options for your team. And in midfield, Daniel Marlon seems like the standout option for you this week. He's in form. He's got a good fixture at home to Wolves. He's got huge upside if he can usurp Ollie Watkins and become the starting centre forward for Aston Villa. And even if he can't, the chances are he's going to be a support striker in that system. And talking of strikers, I think it's only a matter of time before Brian Brobby becomes the starting striker for Sunderland in that team. Increased minutes continuing, 2 games in a row now where he's played nearly 30 minutes. Sunderland lost last time out of Fulham, which means maybe Reggie Labrie will look at it as an option to give him a start in that starting 11. And he has, of course, been very positive about his form since signing. As for your trade options this week, we've got 3 of them for you, and all of them are players I think you could probably get rid of. First, Pedro Porro, who was dropped against Arsenal. Spurs have just 1 clean sheet in their last 8 matches, and Porro is now a very real rotation risk. Every time Spurs play a team they consider better than them, there is every chance they're going to play 5 at the back. And if they play 5 at the back, they're probably going to play defensive fullbacks. And if they play defensive fullbacks, Pedro Porro will not be in that starting 11. So if you have a Tottenham fan in your draft league who you think might be tempted to take Pedro Porro off your hands, get that deal done. Similarly, Jack Grealish had a fantastic start to the season, but he's had no attacking returns in his last 4 matches. His XGI numbers in the last 4 games, 0.65. His XGI numbers in the previous 4, 1.04, neither of which are particularly impressive statistics. Most of his XGI for the season came in his first 2 or 3 games, and that is quite a long time ago now. So Jack Grealish, if you have him in your team, I think you could certainly afford to bin off and try and get some value for him. And similarly, Ollie Watkins, we've spoken about the impact Daniel Marlin's made. He is potentially now a rotation risk for Aston Villa. He is their 10th highest scorer in terms of FPL points, and he is the 18th highest scoring forward. Yes, you drafted him early in round 1, almost certainly. However, his form has fallen off a cliff. Even Aston Villa fans think he's lost more than a yard of pace. And with Marlin now pushing on and demanding a place in that starting 11, Watkins is in danger of being benched. So if you can find a way to get Ollie Watkins out of your team and get some value for him, now might be the time to do it. Sorry if you own him. So your game week 13 to-do list. First up, keep an eye on those European fixtures. There are some going on right now. Keep an eye out for injuries. Keep an eye out for rotation. Manchester City have rested half their squad ahead of the weekend. These are the sort of things you need to be aware of. Keep an eye on those pre-waiver deadline press conferences. They can be gold in terms of making sure you make the right decisions before that waiver deadline. But also keep an eye on the post-waiver deadline press conferences as well, because they could be key to helping you in free agency. Also, follow us on our socials. We are on X, we are on Instagram, we are on Blue Sky. If you like us on X or Instagram, if that's your kind of thing, we're at FPL Draft Zone. If you're more a Blue Sky kind of guy or girl, at fpldraftzone.bsky.social. And of course, please, if you listen to us in audio form, give us a 5-star review and some very, very kind words. And if you're watching us on YouTube, like this video and subscribe to the channel. But that is about it for this week. I hope that Game Week 12 went well for you. It didn't go too well for me, but that's another story that I won't bore you with. Hopefully Game Week 13 will be better for me, for you, for everybody in Draftland except your opponent. Until next time, enjoy your football and bye for now.